It's a great pleasure to be here today, organizing this roundtable or activity in the panel on the SDG 14, Life Below Water. And for that, I'm very happy to have the company of three great women researchers from our university, and also Camila that is supporting me in this roundtable. So firstly, I will present the researchers, and then we will move forward towards a discussion. We'll not make mini speeches or formal speeches like the plenary talks, but rather we will make a discussion on the main topics that we linked before, we talked before on this SDG. So the first researcher I will introduce is Helena Cristina Alves de Assis. It's important to note that all of three researchers that I will introduce you are great researchers, full professors from our university, so the top career in our university. And all of the three has nearly 100 published articles. So they are among the three top researchers in their research field in Brazil. So Helena Cristina da Silva de Assis is a veterinary medicine, is graduated in veterinary medicine from Universidade Federal do Paraná, has a master's degree in veterinary sciences also from Universidade Federal do Paraná, and PhD in natural sciences from Technical University of Berlin. She also has a postdoc in environmental genomics from Ottawa University. She works mainly with ecotoxicology, biomonitoring, environmental toxicology, and so on. She is currently the president of the Society on Environmental Toxicology and Chemistry, the World Society of Environmental Toxicology and Chemistry. She's also a fellow from our main agency for scientific support, CNPq. Unfortunately, an agency endangered to extinction, but which demonstrates the relevance of Helena in the scientific field. We will also have contributions from Carolina Arruda de Oliveira Freire, also a fellow from CNPq. She is graduated in biological sciences, focusing on marine biology from Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro. She has a master's in science, focusing on physiology from Universidade de São Paulo, and a PhD in physiology from Cornell University. She is also a full professor in our university and editor of many scientific articles and contributed to mainly physiological aspects of aquatic organisms. Rosana Moreira da Rocha is our third researcher that will speak today. She's also a fellow from CNPq. She is graduated in biological science from Universidade de São Paulo, has a master's degree in ecology from Universidade Estadual de Campinas, and a PhD also in ecology from Universidade Estadual de Campinas. Also has a postdoc in the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, full professor from our university. She's actually the head of the postgraduation program in ecology and conservation, editor of several scientific articles, and works mainly with marine biodiversity and exotic species, invasive species. And we also have the contribution of Camila Domici, which is supporting us in our roundtable. Camila Domici works also with marine biology. She's graduated from Londrina, from Universidade Estadual de Londrina in biological sciences, has a master's and PhD degree in zoology from Universidade Federal do Paraná, and works also at Universidade Federal do Paraná in the institute devoted to marine biodiversity. So thank you very much for all of you for accepting this invitation and contributing to this roundtable on the SDG 14. I have a special desire to discuss on this SDG 14, given the relevance of water to human life. And as we all know, water is very threatened worldwide. Several articles have been reported the several threats that aquatic ecosystems is suffering, in articles from both fresh waters and marine sciences have highlighted climate changes, land use changes, pollution, overexploitation. Let me see here. I have a figure here to help me. And also invasive species flow regulation, and so on. And now we have to discuss how can we cope with these changes, how can we deal with these changes, given that most fresh waters and ocean is experiencing significant increase in cumulative impact due to several anthropogenic actions in this area that we agree that can be in the Anthropocene area. So I will ask Helena firstly, given that Helena works with contamination and pollution, to talk a little bit about the sources of contamination and also on which contamination, which pollution that we are observing now in aquatic ecosystems. Helena, please, can you talk us a little bit about that?
Okay, thank you very much, Andrea, for this introduction and also for the opportunity, the invitation to be here and the opportunity to share the floor with different research. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. And okay, I will talk about the source of the contamination. So if we can ask what kind of contaminants we have in our water. So we have different contaminants, and it's a mixture, né? It's a cocktail of chemicals. Then we have pesticides, hydrocarbons, metals, emerging contaminants such as nanoparticles, micro and nano plastics, and then we have this figure that we can see how they can reach the hydric bodies or the aquatic bodies as the river and consequent the sea. So they will also contaminate the marine environment. So then we have effects on the structure and functioning of ecosystems and human health. So it's a cycle, né? It's not only the environment, but also ecosystem, the human health is also impacted. So if you think in our house, only a simple example. So we have some substance that can reach the aquatic bodies. So we have some substance pharmaceuticals that we take every day, and then we have some hormones, antibiotics, analgesic drugs. We have also other hormones, antibiotics, analgesics, and also all pharmaceutics that we can take, and then they will be excreted by urine and feces, and then can reach the hydric body. So they can reach the river, and they can go to the treatment, sewage treatment. But sometimes the conventional treatment does not eliminate all this substance. Some are new. They are called also emergent contaminants, that they are not legislation for them. and then so they can not be totally eliminated. So these residues are found in the fresh water and also in marine water. And so this is the one source of these pharmaceuticals. And also the antidepressive drugs, there are also a great amount that there is being found in the water about this drug, that the prescription is very high. Mainly in this moment or after this pandemic, we had a high prescription of some pharmaceuticals, and they will impact the environment. So we have all the incorrect disposal of unused medicament. So sometimes we can put some unused medicament in the garbage or also in the drain, and then can reach also the sewage, and they will not eliminate and then contaminate the aquatic environment. So if you see also this one example in our house, you can see also the veterinary medicine. That is very important, because also the animals are treated with these medicaments or these pharmaceuticals, and then they also can reach the environment by urine and feces, and sometimes these the feces of the animals are also used as fertilizers or used in the agriculture, and then we can also have contamination of the plants with these pharmaceuticals or these residues, and then also can reach the human. So it's also a source of contamination. And then you have also the industry. So we have some residues from industry, also the metals is an example. Then we have some effluents that can contaminate the aquatic bodies, and the metals is important. Né? We can have these in the effluents, also as accidents, that we have some examples for the accidents about with metals. So the mercury is very important to cite, and we have also a high contamination of fish with mercury, mainly by the soil that is contaminated for the metals, and also by the water. The lead is also an important metal, and also the cadmium. So we have some metals that is more dangerous or have more effects in the biota. And then you also contaminate the soil, sediment, and water. And then we have also, can see here the agriculture, yeah, because of some pesticides that are used. So the problem is the indiscriminate use of these pesticides and also some that plantation that is so close for the water. So if you have a rain, then we can this runoff of the pesticides to the river. So it's also a problem. And also some pesticides mimetize some hormones. So some are also recognized as endocrine disruptors. That is also an effect that can appear in some fishes, for example. So then we have this use of indiscriminate use of pesticide, and also maybe incorrect use or the local of the plantation. And also you can contaminate the groundwater. That is also a problem. It's not only the superficial water, but also the groundwater can be contaminated. And then we have also the aquaculture. And we also, as is an important source of contamination, mainly about, for example, the antibiotics use. So the antibiotics that are used in aquaculture can reach also the water bodies. And also some food, and also to increase the organic matter if this water goes direct to a river, for example, or aquatic body. So then we can have some results also contribute for the algae bloom. That is also the consequence of the increase of this material, organic matter in the water, and then nitrogen. Then you can have this bloom of algae, and then you have what we call eutrophisation, in a general way. And then we have some cyanobacteria that can be present in this water, and then produce cyanotoxin. That is most common in reservoir. That's some reservoir for water supply. So it's also a problem for the public health and also for the animal health. And that's where, if you have some doubt or question, you can also explain more about it. That is only a general view of all these possible sources of contaminants, and then also that we have problem with the drink water and also groundwater, and consequently the marine environment is all impacted with these contaminants. So if you see one action that we have in our home or in our industry or in our work, and then we can have consequences to environment. So this is very important to see these multiple stressors to the biota. So in the water, we are going to have a mixture of all these contaminants, or for some of them. And then, so it's very important to know about the sources of contamination in your region or in your studied point, to continue with some monitoring or to understand what is the problem in this aquatic body or in this region that we are studying, or what is the scenario about this. So thank you.
Great, Helena. Very nice figure and very concerning picture of the status of contamination in aquatic bodies. So you highlighted the sources and how contaminants are entering aquatic bodies. And I would like to ask Carolina now, which are the consequences for the health of the aquatic organisms, biota, and also for the ecosystems? Carolina, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Thank you very much, André, for the invitation, for the organization of this roundtable. I'm very happy here to be with these two dear colleagues, Helena and Rosana. Also, thank you, Camila, for all the help and support. And I like to give mini lectures, so it's going to be very brief. I'm going to just share my screen now, and because I just prefer to talk being guided by some image or stuff. So for this round one, and here below I have the laser pointer, the counting of the slide, so that you don't feel scared that I'm going to talk too much or too long. So yes, there is this concept of One Health, which is a very useful and appropriate concept each time more. This was built by Hu and Fall, and concerning, so what does it mean? So One Health, health of humans, animals, plants, ecosystems, land, freshwater, soil, such as Professor Helena has just spoken about, ocean, the planet, the atmosphere, everything, the earth. So this was put, this concept was brought concerning initially food security, zoonosis control, antibiotic resistance, environmental quality. But I think it could be much broader. This image here was from the CDC site and depicting what it is. So the concept of One Health. So it means people who protect human, animal, and environmental health and other partners, of course, coordinating, communicating, collaborating, which is pretty obvious and experienced in the COVID pandemic. And then we see here, actually, yeah, I have to minimize here because I don't see the image here. Sorry, just a second. Yeah, so to achieve the best health outcomes for people, animals, plants, and our environment. But I think this picture here, this image, this drawing is very anthropocentric. It doesn't really care much about other living beings. So physiology, which is my field, my background, is the normal function, health, well-being. And I pose this question, are we humans healthy? Are we contributing to the health of the life with which we share the planet? For example, we have around, this from the WHO side, 600 million people, 1 in 10 people get ill from the ingestion of contaminated food each year. So this pertains to food safety, food security. And over 400,000 of these people die, not to speak about contaminated water. So what we see now is inequality, social inequality. There's here examples in São Paulo, Mumbai, Mexico City, a contrast of inequality, social inequality. And with this, it's really impossible to have one healthy planet, one healthy life be healthy in the planet. So we face these combined threats to the One Health concept as chemical pollution, as very detailed, in detail highlighted by Professor Helena just now, and then deforestation, overfishing, plastic prevalence of all sizes, greenhouse gas emissions, warming, ocean acidification, social inequality, locally and globally impacting the health of life. Our lives, well-being, health, food safety depend on healthy land and ocean. And for everybody, it's useless and actually very stupid to think one might escape or avoid these global changes by having a lot of money or power. So physiology is indeed a relevant approach. Professor Helena has even spoken about endocrine disruption from these pharmaceuticals, these drugs used for human treatment or for animal treatment, veterinary treatment that are just building up in the water bodies and affecting directly the endocrine systems of fish, which are vertebrates, so more sensitive to it. But we have also other approaches in physiology, in ecophysiology or environmental physiology, and this is a very important researcher in that, has greatly contributed to the IPCC reports. And the central issue here to just mention is the metabolic hub. So the issue of metabolic performance. So we, all animals, all ecosystems actually have like a metabolic budget. We have resources and we must do what we have to do. So if you focus on animals, which is of course easier here and pertains to aerobic performance, we can see across temperature, we can see that all animals perform better aerobically in a certain time, thermal window, or in a range of temperature, which is optimum for this animal, which of course is different for an Antarctic fish and for a camel in the desert. But anyway, they perform better at a certain thermal window. And if it's too cold, it won't have much energy left to do what it has to do. And what happens is, and is the challenge of warming, if it's also too hot, it won't either work. So there will not be energy left to do what the animal has to do, to differentiate, to grow, to reproduce, to feed, and nothing will work. So of course, there's a progressive time limitation of thermal tolerance. And we also must see that we don't have only one threat, we have a combined threats caused by us humans. So increasing temperature and also increasing CO2, hypoxia, lower oxygen levels, pollutants, as highlighted by Helena. And another paper by this same author, we just to highlight here that we have to consider the sequence of life stages of animals, like for example, fishes now in the ocean, or everywhere, but most studies are marine fishes, concern marine fishes, and the aerobic thermal window, which exactly means the range of temperatures that allow an optimum aerobic performance of this animal. Meaning that it will be able to use oxygen available in its environment and produce ATP to do whatever it has to do. So we see here, just to briefly highlight, that eggs and early larvae have a narrower aerobic thermal window, such as spawners, animals who are reproducing, than juveniles or growing adults. So it's a very complex issue to approach, and in physiology we can have an interesting way to deal with it. And here I bring, just because I found also this picture very nice from this paper in Science, concerning, of course, a cod, but showing the reproductive energy of a large female and the allometric, hyperallometric scaling of reproductive output across female size or mass. So we see that a large female, so it is like 37, so the same reproductive energy is found in one single 30-kilogram female and in 37 2-kilogram females, which of course represent a larger mass. And so this means that if we fish larger fish and think it's okay, no, it's not okay. And this pertains not only to this species, this study shows that it applies to most other species of fish that have been studied. And overfishing, finning, and everything is pressure that we are putting to this, to the ecosystems, especially marine and everywhere. So this is what I wanted to bring about now for this first round, and this adds to the, let me interrupt, this adds to the to what Professor Helena has brought before concerning then this health issue of the globe.
Great, Carolina. Great talk. And it's amazing to think about, it's counterintuitive to think about the individual effects of one big fish related to the effects of several small fish. And we have this impression that fishing one big fish is less harmful to the ecosystem than several small fishes. So great. And related to this, when we have consequences in health of biota, this extends to biodiversity. So I'd like to invite Rosana to talk a little bit on the biodiversity effects of the pressures and on the impacts, threats on the aquatic bodies. Rosana, please.
Yes, thank you, Andrea, for the invitation and put this roundtable together. And I'm really very glad to be here with the other colleagues, Helena and Carol and Camila. And as Andrea told you, I am a taxonomist and an ecologist, and I work mostly on biodiversity. And I work on a very small group of marine invertebrates, which are ascidians or sea squirts or tunicates. And I'm saying lots of words, and probably many of you don't know these animals. They are very, not that small, but they are invertebrates that grow on rocks. They attach to the rocks. And mostly people that dive or go underwater that know the animals. And talking about this small group that nobody knows, what biodiversity has to do with us. The thing is, we never know which is the next species that will be a model for understanding the evolution of the heart and heart disease. And this is something that people are studying on ascidians. There is a few species of ascidians that are model animals for physiological or evolutionary or to understand the development of the embryos. And or you never know which is the next species that are going to make some chemical that is going to turn into a medicine, or for veterinary use or for human use. And we have lots of marine invertebrates that are being studied, and their chemicals, their secondary metabolism chemicals are useful for cancer treatment, for heart treatment. And now we are studying for some diseases, neuro diseases, like Alzheimer, I forgot the word, and Parkinson, or all these kinds of neuro diseases that we are worried about, since humankind are being older and older, and are getting different kinds of diseases. So it's very important that we have all this biodiversity known, that we have to study them and describe them. And we are very low in this matter. In a matter of fact, in 2010, many editors of a platform known as WORMS, of a World Register of Marine Organisms, we added all the species that we know in the sea. And this was around 250,000 species. And we estimated how many species still wanting to be described. And we found that this, what we know, is actually more or less 1/3 that what we have to know yet. And actually we are finding more and more that this number is going to increase, because lots and lots of genetic lineages are being revealed with new DNA techniques, genetic studies. So things that we thought that was one species, actually they are sometimes 3 or 4 different genetic lineages. So we have much more than we found before. And so we know around 1/3 of the species. So we still need to study. And this is very great in Brazil, though this is a strong part of the Brazilian research on biodiversity or marine biodiversity. We have lots of universities at the coast, because you have lots of cities, or the large cities, capital of the states along the coast. And we have a very healthy community of scientists working on biodiversity. Brazil is very known by their taxonomists. And so we're doing a hard effort to increase our knowledge of our biodiversity. And one of the main threats of biodiversity, as Carolina just talked to us, is overexploitation. So this is an article from 2020, and so it's very new, and the authors tried to understand what were the main threats for ocean biodiversity. And you can see there all these round pictures showing that the red one is climate change. So this is something that we're talking when we are talking about physiology, the change of temperature, the change of in the sea. It's important to also talk about change of salinity or change of pH, acidification of the ocean. The oceans are getting a little bit more acid than before in the last 100 years. So all these are called in general climate change, and you can see in all those sites in the ocean, this is a big threat. But we still have pollution, Plastic pollution mainly is something that everybody's talking about. And we have invasive species. This is something that deals with biodiversity. The biodiversity itself threatening another biodiversity just because they are changing places. What is causing these invasions? Why are we talking about invasions mostly these last 20 years? Because humans just realized that because we move so much and we make lots and lots of trade and commercial between countries, all these trades between countries are mainly made by the ocean. So there are ships traveling all over the ocean every day, every second, every minute. And they are bringing the goods that we want to buy, cars and food and all kinds of stuff. But they also takes animals on the hulls of the vessels. So inside the vessels, we have ballast water, which is water that you use to equilibrate the weight of the ship. But also on the hull, we can have lots and lots of attached animals. And these are acidants too, the ones that I work with, or barnacles or mussels, and all these kinds of animals can attach to the hulls. And they just get a right to go to different countries, and then they can reproduce in a different country, in a different sea, and start a new population there. So this is what we're talking when we are saying about invasions or bioinvasions. Species that will never find the Brazilian coast because they live in Japan, they live in Australia, or they live in Europe or the coast of Europe. And by means of the currents or their own larvae would not be able to swim so far away. But because we have all this transportation by ships, they can come and very fast, because now our ships are very fast. So travels that will take like 3 months, 500 years ago, now it's just 10 hours sometimes, or 2 days. And then the animals come and they invade. So invasive species is a big deal. And this is in the green or gray or something like in this figures. And then we have overexploitation, which the yellow part of this figure. And overexploitation is something that Carolina was saying about we exploiting fishing, and not only fish, we are exploiting algae in many of the Asiatic countries. Lots of algae are being used, not only for food, but also for industrial products. And we have also bivalves or mussels, oysters, and lots of other kinds of foods that we extract from the sea. So this is, but when we go just for the big animals, the tunas, the sharks, and whales, and we are harvesting the top of the food chain, actually. So these animals are very, very important because they are controlling all their prey. And when we have now stocks of tuna fish and sharks that are just 3 or 5% of what we calculate they were 200 years ago. So this is a lot for a population. So people the ecologists that work on the dynamics of population, they have lots of information for us to understand, and they actually do that. They are monitoring and they are calculating how many adults are necessary for reproducing and stocking the population. So how much recruitment, how much new juveniles we need to have those populations back. I don't know if you know the very famous story of cod. So cod, what we eat as cod today is not actually what people in the 900s have eaten, or in the beginning of the 20th century, because the species have had to be changed because we just finished overexploited the stocks of what we used to call as cod. So we have to pay attention, because if we overexploit some species, the thing is we are to get more efficient. Usually we are exploring very few species and exploring too much, and then we finish their population, and some of this population cannot regrow anymore. So this is a big threat for biodiversity. And the other thing, I'm going to take about this a little bit more later, but it's habitat destruction and modification. So this is another important part of the threats that we are seeing, not only in the sea, but in all aquatic systems. So I think we can, I had this overview in general for the main threats, mostly for the ocean, because I study ocean animals, but you can understand, and my colleagues also talked a little bit more of freshwater too. So everything is impacted by human activities.
And connected as well. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much, Rosana, for talking on the biodiversity threats that we have in marine ecosystems or aquatic ecosystems in general. So I would like to move forward the discussion on the responsibilities of humans' activities. But before I need to ask for if you want to type questions, please type here in the chat. I know that the YouTube live streaming is going on, and I'm not sure if the people that see YouTube is able to type questions, but if don't, feel free to join the Zoom meeting, which is free. Only you need to register in the website, and then you can join freely in this meeting and type your questions here. So I would like to move forward in the discussion by talking a little bit on the responsibilities of human activities. So you all three made an overview of threats, of sources of contamination, of the consequences for health and for biodiversity, and the cumulative impacts that we have in aquatic ecosystems. So we are near a tipping point, as Carlos Nobre told in the first plenary talk, talking about Amazonian, but we are near a tipping point in oceans and fresh waters. So Helena, what do you think on the responsibilities that we do have on the main impacts that we discussed before here?
Yes, I think that if we were face to face, I would ask you who is watching this roundtable and presentation about that. I think that we have a lot of responsibilities, and the challenge is so many challenges that we have for that. Yeah. So I think that I don't know if it's a challenge or a responsibility that we, as I talk with source of pollution, as to recognize the source of the pollution. It's very important, I think. And so because the non-point source pollution is the cause of water pollution, so we need to, it's difficult to regulate if you don't know the agent. So I think that is very important to recognize the source of the pollution, then we can regulate that. And also, maybe also the new methodology. We have some problems, don't know if it's problems, but with the chemical methodology, I think is also a challenge for us, and also responsibility to standardize methodologies to analyze these contaminants in the water bodies and the low concentration, because we have low concentration for some pollutants, contaminants, and then we cannot analyze, we cannot measure. So it's also maybe a responsibility for the scientific society also to increase this methodology, and also we have a population growth. So we also probably continue to increase the use of pesticides and also this food contamination. And then it's also a responsibility for we need to have a political will to invest more in this problematic, in these important issues. And also this absence of awareness of policymakers on critical linkage of water quality. So we need to have this responsibility of our water quality. So we need to save drink water, and also the sanitation that we have here in Brazil and in other countries. We need more this to improve the water treatment, the sewage treatment, and also because of also these health problems, yeah, for the human. And then we also have the threat posed by climate change. We are not to discuss the climate change here, I think, but also one thing that we need to think about it, and is also very important, because this change all the maybe the behavior of some contaminants in the environment, and also this problematic of drink water. So I think that's a responsibility for us to reduce this contamination in the water, in the hydric bodies, and also to improve the water management.
Yeah, and yeah, we are in the Anthropocene. No one questions that. We need to take responsibility for our actions. So Carolina, how can we do this? How can we take responsibilities? How can, as scientists now, we can say we have this section of society that has to take responsibility for these actions or other actions? Talk a little bit. What do you think about that?
Again, a few slides. Yeah, what I think is that everybody, we as humans, we are responsible. It's kind of bad when people just, although we know that some people have more power, so more responsibility, economic, political power, so more responsibility, both individuals, individuals, companies, nations, on what's happening, but it's like historic. So it's useless to point finger and just accuse other people or companies or nations as being guilty, because we as humans, we are all responsible to a lesser degree, to a higher degree. So if everybody must take action, such as happened and was needed in the COVID pandemic, everybody is responsible. So we must all act. It's useless to really point finger and say that other people and other companies, other actors are more responsible or are guilty, because it doesn't help. And every solution, everything that Helena already said, and that Rosana will say, everything adds up. All people and all its capacities, his or hers, everybody now in different capacity, in different roles in the society, in different levels of power, everybody must act. So I put a highlight here on plastic, especially single-use plastic, and everything else that has been mentioned by Helena again, and contamination and interaction between contaminants and warming and acidification and everything. And the problem is, the ground problem is that we humans are too many. We must be fair and sensible in the sharing of global resources now and in the future, and correct what is wrong and redirect our roots, always, in all senses, in all degrees. And so global resources and knowledge must be shared. So this also pertains to science, to sharing science with the public for the good of everyone. Here I brought just two infographics from Statista concerning plastic, just as a major example, and oil. And so the companies with the largest plastic footprint, Coca-Cola, Nestlé, Colgate, etc. And their labels were present in the plastic waste collected in 55 countries in 2020. And here to the right, the world's biggest plastic waste producers, so certainly connected to the oil industry, and also warming, CO2 buildup. So if all we do on land ends up in the ocean, as also highlighted in the diagram that Helena showed in the first slide of this round table, and here is a picture of single-use plastics found at the deepest points of the ocean. Here is like the depth is almost 6 kilometers down, and here to the right, in the NOAA expedition to the Marianas in 2016. So we are part of nature, we humans, and we are the problem. So we must now be the solution. And here is a graph of the world emitters, the top 6 countries and numbers of nations and numbers of people, and the steep increase after the 1900s and where we stand now. So I like this cartoon, Ode to Humanity by Timo Esna. So that's what we do. And with the more power, the more harm we do. And just the last slide of this round here, which I thought it was interesting, from the Food Waste Index Report 2021 by the UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. Their key findings, of course, I'm not going to read this all, but which is interesting to add, 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions are associated with food that is not consumed, so food waste. It's a very, very important issue also. And just summarizing this with these two notes here below, 17% of global food production is wasted. And food waste in households happens in the whole planet. So this actually is interesting because, as it says here, it diverges from earlier narratives, concentrated consumer food waste in developed countries, which is, of course, huge, but and on lower income countries, with most waste being related to food production, storage, and transportation losses. But apparently, high, upper middle, and lower middle income countries all contribute to food waste. So this is also a very important issue that has to be tackled concerning food security, concerning hunger and food waste and global warming. So we just must change our habits. So that's what I wanted to comment on this second round.
Great, Carolina. Yeah, I agree with you that it's difficult to point who is most responsible. We all are responsible, but some issues it's more difficult to take responsibility. For instance, in biodiversity is something that we tend to. This is something from nature, not related to human activities. So how, Rosana, can we relate human responsibilities to biodiversity changes and phenomena like extinction, species loss, biotic homogenization, and so on? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, as you said, we are part of nature and we are top predators. So I was talking about this cascade on the food chain. And we have to realize that. So we are the top predators that are predating, and we're omnivores. So we eat in many different levels of the food chain. So we have a very large impact on that. And if as a species, we are very high populations, or very large populations, as Carolina is saying. So we have a really large impact in all the praise that we pray. So we have to understand that. And we have to understand also that all our economy is based on, but most of our economy is based on biodiversity. Everything starts with biodiversity. Even the energy or fossil energy that we're trying to move on now, it starts on oil. Oil is made of living things, dead now, but something that has been living in the past. And the food, all the industry, food industry, but also the medicine industry or the pharmaceuticals, all their products are based on nature or plants. And we're starting now with invertebrates, marine invertebrates, as I said you before. And the industry of construction, all the wood we use, and lots of materials are also from nature. Many rocks are biogenic rocks, actually. We don't realize that. We think them as minerals, but they are biogenic. So we use some kind of bricks for furnaces that are made of diatomaceous, which are small marine algae, general. And so we have lots and lots of things that, or many of the cosmetic industry and everything you can think about have some component in biodiversity. And so this is something that we have to think about. If you are destroying, or if the environment for that biodiversity is not very healthy, the organisms will not be very healthy neither. And so we are poisoning ourselves. And this is what's happening when we have too many toxics in the food. We are eating that, and we, as top predators, we are accumulating that on the process. So we are poisoning ourselves. So we have a lot of responsibility not in our day-to-day activities. And I am one of those that really believe that we have to reduce. We have to reduce everything. We have to think of what we eat. We see, Carolina said that many people don't eat at least one meal a day, which is awful. And we have lots of people just giving out food that's still good to eat. So we need more connections, and we need more integration for all these resource, that's biodiversity resource, to be fairly shared among humans. And I would like to talk a little bit about the other thing that we do. We as mankind, we are bioengineers. What I'm talking about, that we call it bioengineers and species that make things and change the landscape. So when we build our cities, when you build things, we are changing the landscape, and we are changing the ecosystem, actually. So we are changing all the relationships between the species that are in this ecosystem and the environment of this ecosystem. We see that our cities are more warm, and they have less water and things like those. And this is also happening. I'm always thinking about the ocean, and this is also happening in our coast. So we are turning our coasts and our oceans in something different, because we're building a lot. We don't think about that. We think about humankind buildings in the land, in the continents, in cities. But we have lots and lots of constructions around the coast. We have piers, marinas, ports, and bridges, and seawalls to protect the beaches. Now we are changing the sand of the beaches, putting sand where there's no sand before, or taking sand from other sites. So we are remodeling all this coast. And doing so, we are changing the environment, as we are changing the currents that are around these structures. So we are changing how the species are able to disperse in the environment. And we are creating obstacles for many species. In freshwater, we are doing that, making all those plants for energy. We stop rivers, we deviate rivers. So we are establishing obstacles for the species to go back and forth. And so we are changing a lot our system. And by doing that, we are also creating ecosystems that are more interesting for exotic species too. So I was talking about the ships going back and forth and bringing different species from different seas to Brazil, for instance. And when they come here, they find lots and lots of new constructions and new spaces, new substrates to attach. And we have a very good example, which is the sun coral. It's a very beautiful coral. I agree with that. It's colorful, it's orange or yellow, and divers love to take pictures of it, but it's going crazy because it doesn't have much of the predators or the diseases, especially diseases and parasites that they have in the Pacific. So here it is growing and spreading and spreading. And it's beautiful, but is it more beautiful to see a very diverse rocky shore with lots of corals, anemones, and other invertebrates, and you can take lots of pictures, or a garden of sun coral? This is what's happening. It's just a rock completely covered of sunflower coral. And so when you like pictures, yes, you see it's very beautiful to take a picture of one coral, but when you have coral here and coral there and coral there, and then you have all your 10 pictures the same. And before you have lots of things, different things to see and to take pictures and lots of other animals around. So this is a big deal with invasive species. They can dominate the environment, the communities, and disequilibrate everything, because now we don't have the different resources for the fishes, for the other animals that preyed on bivalves, on oysters, on sponges, on ascidians, and other things. So we are completely modifying our coast. Another example is a bivalve that came here. We started to see there in 2015. We studied a lot this bivalve in this last 2 or 3 years. Is Mytilus galloprovincialis, is the Mediterranean Mytilus. So it's the Mediterranean, it's from there. It's coming here with boats, and it's completely, or it has the potential to replace the brown mussel, which is the one we grow in Santa Catarina, the one we like to eat. And this other one is grown in China, is grown in South Africa and in many countries. But here, they don't taste that much. They don't grow as they grow in other places. So we are replacing a species that is very interesting for us in an economical sense. And for a species that is not that great, the economic value is not as much as the brown mussel. And it has this potential to displace everything else in the rocky shore too. This is a species that makes aggregations. So, and it's being favored by the farms of mussels themselves, because this is also a man creation. So we create lots and lots of floats and ropes and big bottom concrete blocks to hold all this together. And all this is a space for other species. So we are creating cities, we are creating ecosystems for different species. And this we have to pay attention to. So The thing is, we do these things isolated sometimes, and we have to have a more regional view or people working together. And I think I really believe in the power of the state. I'm not talking about the one governor or one mayor in specific, but the state. So we have to have this instance that organize our activities, because these many activities has this conflict. So the tourist that is in the beach doesn't want to see the cultives, but the cultives is good because it gives us food. And the cultives brings exotic species, and then the fisherman that's going to fish doesn't like the cultives because these exotic species are replacing the food of the fish, so we have less fish. So we have lots of different activities, economical activities, recreational activities, and we have to equilibrate these things, because sometimes we have conflict between them. And this is the big deal. How can we equilibrate different activities and to sustain them to the long term? This is what we're talking about, sustainability. How to sustain different activities, because they are all interesting, they are all important, but we have to maintain them to the long term. And if you're going to threaten one or two of them and finish or extinct that activity in 1-2 years, then what we have after that? So we have to make our world more complex and not more simple. And this is what Andrea was talking about, homogenization of communities. We don't want communities with just one species. We want communities with lots of species, because they are opportunities for the future. We never know which of these species will be very important and very meaningful for us in the future. So I think this is part of what I would like to discuss.
Great, Rosana. You talk a lot of some things that for me is also very important. I would like to highlight also that the complexity of biodiversity patterns. Sometimes in local scales, the exotic species can even increase the richness, the biodiversity measures. And but this could be temporary, or this could, if you look at another scale, the global scale, the diversity is decreased. So it's not very direct, the relationship between our actions and biodiversity. Biodiversity not always means a good environment. Environment with high biodiversity not always means a good environment. But indeed, the increase in our activities that has consequence, for instance, for biological invasions, also increase the unpredictability of the outcomes. And we should avoid that and manage that to preserve and conserve the local differences in ecosystems. As you said, if we preserve local difference, we will have opportunities for the future. More species that can be important for many actions we will have. So I have here some contributions from Camila, but I think that it's better to read these contributions and questions at the end of our discussion, because we have one round of discussions more. And in this round, I would like to ask you to contribute, and I will not make any interventions between your contributions. So Helena, contribute, then move to Carolina, and move to Rosana. Helena, all of you, we talked a lot of impacts, threats. We talk about responsibilities and actions we should have. And now the big question is, can we achieve these 14 Sustainable Development Goal? Can we have sustainability, and what we need to do as society, what we need to do in the different government units, municipalities, states and countries and UN, what can we do to achieve these goals? I would like to pass the word to you so you can contribute for this discussion, Helena. So I will not make interventions between you, okay?
Okay, I would like only to comment in what Rosana said first. That is an example that I am working now reservoir near Curitiba, and this is I think this is example of this loss of management. I think this manage is the connect the actions is very important, because then we have a reservoir for drinking water supply, and then you have all the sewage of the houses going to this reservoir, and then we have a bloom of cyanobacteria that produce neurotoxin. That's very dangerous for the human and for the animals, because it's a neurotoxin that is present in this water. And then we have sayings: fishing is prohibited and swimming is prohibited. So you cannot fish, and they cannot. Now the fish, I think there's no more this sign, only swimming. Swimming is prohibited. Okay, you cannot swim in this reservoir. Then we have a yacht club. Okay, then we have the boats. Then you can go recreation, but we cannot swim. So you cannot jump in the water, or you cannot have contact with the water. For me, it's crazy, yeah, because you have the problem. Then we know how to solve that, because one thing is to stop the sewage in this reservoir. The other thing is to show the society, the population that is fishing there, that is a really dangerous death. And why? Because if you have, okay, it's the algae bloom, not swimming. It's nothing for the population. Then you need to show what's the problem. It's also an education problem. And then we need to have multiple actions to stop the problem. So if we're going to have this problem continues, that is, I think, more than 10 years, we have this problem there. It's increasing now. And then we have also the drinking water contamination. So that is very important. And then I think that's the connect the actions, and to have the water managed, but a coordination for that. That I think that is very important, because we know how to solve the problem, but we cannot do that if you don't have multidisciplinary professionals, and also that want to change. I think that's because we know how to change. So I think that is very important. And also about some simple actions that we can do, for example, individuals actions, because sometimes I cannot do anything. Yes, I think you can. One that is simple action is not throwing medicine, pharmaceuticals in the toilet and in the trash, and also dispose your medication properly. We have the pharmacy. The pharmacy needs to receive pharmaceuticals, then we can return. And we have this reverse logistics, that you have a law for that, and then we can return to the pharmacy all the medicaments that we are not using. So this is a simple action. Yeah, we also can decrease plastic consume. We can separate garbage. So we have some simple actions that we can do. And other maybe is more, we need more political or investment for better water treatment. And also in my research, I am working with some alternative treatment for water. So I think is also important to have some alternative methodologies to clean the water. And we are studying the use of plants, aquatic plants, to clean the water. And we have some impressive results with that. Some aquatic plants are very useful to clean the water, and also the pharmaceuticals. We tried with antibiotics and anti-inflammatory, and the results are very positive. Almost 98% of the substance, the pharmaceuticals, were removed by the plant, the aquatic plant. So I think that is alternative, that is not expensive. And then we can try to use that, for example, after the water treatment, we can pass this water for these plants, and then we can clean also these pharmaceuticals that are not removed from by the conventional water treatment. So this is one possibility that we can use. I know that there are other alternative methodologies that are being studied, and then we can also try these alternatives. And also, as I said in the first talk about the aquaculture, we have some examples that after the water that came from the aquaculture, we can build a reservoir with these plants. And before this water from the aquaculture goes to the river, they can pass in these aquatic plants. And then aquatic plants will clean all the medicaments that are used in the aquaculture and also the organic matter. And then we have a clean water going to the river or to a reservoir, because many times the problem is the reservoir that is for the drink water supply. So then we can have some not so expensive alternative methods that you can use, and then can help with this conservation of the environment, and also for this water managed, or to have a better quality of the water. I don't know the opinion of the colleagues.
Plants are the best.
I'll follow up.
I work with aquatic plants, so plants are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carol, please.
So, of course, adding on everything that Helena said, more like in a specific context of a reservoir, water reservoir for supply fresh water to a city, and with bioremediation use of plants, everything is very nice. We also sometimes hear about like bacteria that feed on plastic, and it's, of course, it brings like a good feeling, but we have to reduce the input of such substances and act on every from every side to reduce because we're too many. So we have to really do that, everybody. And of course, also the more the society is aware of what's going on locally and globally, the more pressure it can make, everybody can make on the politicians, and also for elaborating better public policies and law enforcement and all that. So this is, of course, as Rosana also pointed out in her last talk, about the state, the action of the state. So, of course, everything is of utmost important, and no solution, even if it apparently has a very small reach, is unnecessary. Everything is necessary. So, but the basic thing, so to bring all this into action is education, reduce inequality, social inequality, reduce deforestation and habitat destruction, so to increase biodiversity, let nature restore itself, like Attenborough always mentions, reduce warming, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce plastic use, reduce red meat consumption, reduce unsustainable aquaculture and agriculture practices, with using mainly exotic species, which brings about intensive and large cultures, which brings about lots of antibiotics, and so foster more agroecology initiatives, both on land and integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, which uses algae and filtering organisms such as oysters and mussels, and is much less impactful to the environment. Increase, of course, sewage treatment, increase clean energy use, increase recycling. So so education is the basis. So if the goal is to clarify, convince, motivate, captivate for diverse life conservation, so biodiversity, who will protect? I've just heard somebody mention like that in a webinar during this pandemic concerning conservation. Who will protect what they do not love, and who will love what they do not know about? So everybody must know to love and to protect and defend, or it doesn't work. And so a final issue that I like a lot is this idea of Gaia, the earth. Earth is, and the ocean are ill, or the earth is ill, the ocean is part of the earth. We must really revert the approximation of this tipping point. So again, mention here the tipping point, the point of no return. Gaia was like a Greek deity for ancestral mother, and that's how I bring back to the initial slide I showed on the One Health. So the earth is ill. We must consider the health of the earth, or we are not going to be healthy at all we as humans. So that's why I said in the beginning that we should widen up the concept of One Health and really make it clear and educate people on the need of diverse, on reducing, on healthy and diverse environments in the water and on land and forests, and reducing fire and putting down deforestation for cattle and all that. So what can we do? We can change and tell others about it. So I like to say that's a good contamination, as bringing about the COVID situation. And here just some initiatives in Brazil that this Uma Vida Sem Plástico is a store, and Pensamento Verde and Olho Peixe supports the artisanal fisheries, and which is also, there's 2022, next year is going to be the year of artisanal fisheries for the UN. And be concerned about the footprint, ecological footprint, so sustainability, the sustainable development, or the development goals, and also they use recyclable organic wraps, not plastic really, the bioplastic, something like that. And so the more we do this, the better. So everybody counts, and should make pressure on it, on those with more power and consumer habits, and spread. That's what I think.
Okay, I'll take from what Carolina just said about knowledge. It's important, and Carlos Joly on Wednesday also said so. Children love nature. It's true that children usually love nature, and adults put lots of problems with nature, because this is dangerous, this is not that good for you, don't touch that animal. And yes, true, there are some animals that are poisonous, that have some problems about it, but it's how much percent? It's almost nothing. And we put all our emphasis in those ones, and then children start to be afraid of nature. and not very comfortable with ants or with mosquitoes or with some other animals. So I think we are changing that a little bit in the theme of field guides, or having more museums, or having more aquariums and oceanariums, or things like those where people can, in a controlled environment, at least know nature. And we have to do more of those, I think, because just looking at nature from the screen of a television or of a computer is kind of a problem, because people make it so romantic. No, it's not too hot, it doesn't rain, it doesn't bother you because you have some animals going around. And then when you really go to nature, they don't like it at all. That's a problem too. So we only show the good part of it, or the very comfortable part of it, and not all of it. And nature is so entertaining. If you have a hobby with nature, you can garden, or you can look at animals, or look for animals, or how I said before, you take pictures. You can be hours out there and not be bored at all. So many teenagers and many people say they are bored in their cities, there's nothing to do, because they only think of leisure or of recreation is going to the movies, or going to a bar, or talking to their friends. And if you kind of take back this kind of recreation that is just going to look for flowers, or take pictures of flowers, or garden a little bit, this will be people much more related to nature, I think. So we need more of that, and it's starting. And it is starting with bird watching, with many projects of citizen science that needs people to look for nature. And actually, I want to make a little bit of an announcement here, or a marketing. I am working on a network of taxonomists of marine animals. And we have this project, BioGeoMar, which it's in the social media. You can look for this acronym, BioGeoMar. And we are planning for, actually we're organizing now, but we are planning for this summer to make a BioBlitz of photography of nature in the Brazilian coast, everything, and beaches and rocky shores or coral reefs, mangrove, anywhere we're going to be on the coast, you can take pictures of plants and animals and whatever you look like, and put inside the platform. We are going to use iNaturalist, which is a platform from California, or started in California, but it's global. And so, and you can share the identifications, because it's much better if you know the name of, this plant, but you don't know the name of it or anything about it. When you start to knowing names, and you can identify things with field guides of people helping you. And this is a collaborative platform. Everybody can guess what the species is and try to figure out the identifications. Then you have people interested in nature. So I think this is the basis. Basis is to understand and see, because even so, people don't see. Many times, even for undergrad students, I put a slide of a rocky shore. How many species you can see in this picture? And people don't see. Sometimes they see 50%, 60%, because you have to learn how to see. We have to learn how to see the different colors, different textures, different things. And this is fun. This is funny. So this is something that I think it will help if more people start to understand more the things. And also we have an international initiative, which is the Decade of the Ocean, UN initiative. And it has been started in this year. For 10 years, we are going to increase the culture that people have about the ocean. And probably you have already seen lots and lots of initiatives to understand that the ocean has something to do with our life. If you don't like to eat seafood, you will breathe air that comes from the sea. You like to see, to go to the beach, or you like to see scenery pictures of the coast, or something like that. So increasing this kind of culture on the sea, it's a really great opportunity, because something what needs is how I said before, an agency or people or a pretest to think about it. So when we start the decade of the ocean, oh, you start to think about the ocean. What do I have to do with the ocean? Do I have anything? I like it, I don't like it, what I liked of it. And then I started to see documentaries, or if something gets to the social media that I will not take a bit, but because I know this is the decade of the ocean, maybe I stop there and read and see. And I think this is a good thing. So we have to think of opportunities for people to stop and see what they are doing. So all the plastics that Carolina was saying about, everybody knows now about this unique use of plastic. I have no idea 10 years ago that there were some plastics that I used just once. And it was a normal thing to do. It's just to take that, use it and put it in the garbage. And now we have this conscience. Now we were aware of these kinds of plastic use. And so we have to call attention of everybody. And this is a really, the decade of ocean is also about meeting science and the public, and how scientists can communicate more and help more, how the public can have more from our data, our monitoring systems. And technology has a very important role in this. And maybe we're just doing and talking here about this because we have technology. And we have these huge platforms with lots and lots of data about the sea, about biodiversity. But now we have to make people know about the platforms, know about the data, and to translate this data to people and to managers and to policymakers. Like Carlos Joly said on Wednesday, that it's not just, even the data is on maps, people don't use it if you don't translate them. So this is our responsibility as scientists, and to try to translate all this information to the public. And this is the responsibility of ONGs and NGOs in English, NGOs, and from small science clubs. I have this dream of having a science club in each school. Every school should have a science club once a week for people to get together and make projects and make the things that are not in the schedule, in the curriculum, that are things that we just want to do for ourselves. And this is kind of something that I'm starting to do with one school here in Curitiba. And it's amazing how the things that the students ask, or what are their interests. And now then you understand what people want to know and what are important for them and things like those. And I also, so the decade of Oceano is an opportunity, because it makes everybody stop and think what I am doing to make life on Earth more sustainable, to make the environment I live more comfortable and interesting and everything like that. And something that I want to bring to the discussion too is something that Helena made me think about, talking about managing a reservoir. Around 12, 15 years ago, I was in a meeting in Cuba. There's a small island that everybody has lots of issues about Cuba. And I always think that Cuba has lots and lots to tell us or to teach us. And we are talking about conservation. We were about and they were exposing or showing us a series of studies that were being made because they wanted to protect a stretch of the coast. So the northern part of the coast had lots of different environments, coral reefs and mangrove and beaches, and they wanted small islands, lots of small islands, and they wanted to protect that. And what they were showing us, and I was like, how they can do that. So since they have this very state and strong government, everybody works for the government, and the government organized things. And this is a good side of it. So they were working together, the Minister of Agriculture. What this has to go to the ocean? So when you think a protected land or coast, what do you think? We think the Minister of the Environment. We think about the scientists that work on the coast, and they have a very good oceanological institute there. And for me, it was just these partners. But they had the Minister of Livestock, the Minister of the Agronomy or Agriculture, and they have Health Minister, everybody working together. So to protect those land, they were standing the mountains back there with all the watershed, and how the watershed and agriculture and livestock growing, and everybody will influence what's going on in the point in the ocean there. And what they had to do in the first part, it is exactly what Helena was telling us. Do you have to take care of the water, the river water, and how much we can accept of fertilizers, or how much we can accept of food for the animals, or things like those, or nitrogen in the water, or excess of phosphate in the water. So we have this land that we're going to protect in the coast, healthy and good for the animals and good for the people that are there. And they also have the people. They also have the community working together with this project. So it was a very large project. And because of that, they got lots and lots of money from the European community, because Cuba doesn't have money at all. And they were doing really great science and really expensive science. And I was just asking, where did all this money come from? They have problems with eating every day. It's a reality of the island. And they said, oh, we got all our money from PNUMA, from the UN, the international agencies, because they have so good projects, because they have all these integrated. And there is a probability, a high probability of success in their projects, because they have everything integrated. So this was really a lesson to take, that we have to modify the way we work. We should work on larger projects with many different partners, and not only scientific partners, but people that live in the local, because in the end, it's a commitment. If you're going to have conservation and sustainability, it's a commitment with everybody that is in that region. And if you don't have that, doesn't matter. They are going, yeah, we are going to prohibit swimming and someone is going to swim. We are going to prohibit pollution and someone is going to pollute. But if everybody agrees in the project or trust in the project, everybody will be the policy of the thing, and don't leave other people interfere. So I think this was really a good lesson that we have to think about.
Great.
And I guess we can take the questions or the comments that people have been doing.
Thank you very much, Rosana. I was completely mesmerized by your talks, all of you, and it's not a surprise, because I have a great admiration for all of you three, and you really contributed to these issues. Before passing through the comments, I would like to also to highlight some issues that I think it's important. We are in times in the last 2 years of a pandemic, a terrible pandemic, and during this period, we have witnesses several discussions, several meetings, world meetings like the UN meetings, the COP26, and so on, discussing how can we deal with our major issues worldwide. And we have this utopic 17 goals that we are reaching. And I think that we all agree that we can reach at least the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal 14, but hopefully all of them. But we have to work hard, work together. It will not be easy. It will be very difficult. We have to change lifestyles. We have to change cultures and so on. And this is not easy, maybe not so quick, but necessary. And I think that we have to have a good, optimistic view from these SDGs. I do have an optimistic view from these SDGs. So I know that Camila also have some comments. Camila, I will invite you to bring your ideas and comments before reading the questions and comments from the viewers.
Oh, thank you so much, André. I wrote my thoughts because all the professors bring so many good things that they burn my mind here, you know, like, oh my God, we need to change the way that we behave, you know, the way that we think, the way that we are doing science, the way that we are communicating science. I think all the comments, all the topics that you bring today were crucial to put everyone to think about our force and about the weakness to get a better planet. We need to change, but the way that we need to change, it's something very strong and it's a challenge. Yes, I think it's a challenge for all of us. And yeah, you bring information that should be shared with all the society and government to give them more options and support to take decisions. And as Rosana said, there are many ways to do that. We have many ways to share knowledge and share science and share information. And in this way, I feel that communication is a key important tool to put everyone on the same page and bring together all the better science that we have and the social and economic expectations and strengthen our decision as a society. We need to communicate, and what we do today is it's part of this communication, but we need to communicate all more than that. We need to communicate it with other actors that is not just the people that work in university and work in scientific institutions and work for the government. We need to talk with the society, with everyone, and bring everyone together. I think the slogan that we have for the Ocean Decade is everyone needs to be on board. We cannot forget anyone. And I think this is the big challenge that we have, you know, put science as a family conversation, put science as a topic to be discussed at the bar, not just for us, because we used to do that. We used to discuss science at the bar and with our family, but everyone needs to do that. We need to understand that science is just a tool, and it's important to change the world, to change the environment quality. And I think this is the big challenge. And we should find ways to bring everyone to look at the same direction. And more than cumulative threats, we need to be able to accumulate good actions. And as Carolina said, I love that, and I would use that. Good contamination. We need to find good contamination, and we need to spread out these good contaminations to achieve an important turning point and not the tipping point. And we need to find these turning points concerning global health and quality. And I think all of us are here today and are changing the way that we do science because we believe we need to do that, and we need to speak more with the society. And maybe it's not just that, but this is a very important step to change, to give more support for the society, you know, to enforce them, to put power on them, you know. I don't know the word for that, but put more power for the society, for them to feel that they can change something, and to give them better directions, you know. And I think science is good for that. They give scenarios, and we can choose with this. When we have these scenarios, we are more strong to choose them, you know, for which size, for which directions we want to go. Yeah. And concern all that point, I believe Carolina, Rosana, and Helena brings part of that on their talks, but they said about increased education, reduce inequality, and share knowledge. But I would like to ask a little bit to all of you, bring a little bit more about how could the Sustainable Development Goals, or even the Ocean Decade, or Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, how they can help us to strike the triad, you know, science, governance, and society, and to achieve One Health, as Carolina brings to us, One Health principles. How we can use these initiatives, these global initiatives. Rosana said, we need to use them to put these topics for everyone. But if you have any other ideas, and if you want to use this time to share with us some other some complementary ideas, just to give for everyone more information, you know, Ocean Decades, how they can use it. Oh, Ecosystem Restoration Decade, how can use these initiatives to achieve this challenging, this decade challenging, you know, like a talk about science, or use science to change the world quality, and to integrate science, governance, and society. I think this is the big question that I would like to bring to the floor.
Okay, Camila,
And again, thank you so much. You are all incredible. It was great. It was great to be here with all of you.
Camila, just a matter of organization here. So I would like you to answer this big question, but very quickly, because we have 3 more questions in the chat, and we have only 13 minutes to end this section. Okay, so please contribute quickly to this big question of Camila.
Yeah, I think this is a big question. But I am thinking with my students, for example, about our project in the university. I think all of us are working in this developed goals, I think, because each project that we are developing in the post-graduation, there is something that in direction with these goals. It can be in the, I don't know, environment, but also for human health. And then we have the connections for one of the goals. Then I am trying to show for the students that, because sometimes we are not working with these goals. We are not involved on it. Yes, I think we are. But each one needs to see what is the part of the studies that is related with one of these developing goals. And I think they will reach some issues that are related. So it's one thing. Then, okay, I am contributing for that. And now I need to catch this opportunity of the decade to transform, or to communicate, or to involve, to connect with that. I think that is a challenge. But in my view, all of us are working in some points with these goals.
I agree with everything. I'd just like to add that that, as Rosana also pointed out, that a few years ago, we were not aware of the damage of the plastics. So it's not that we are bad people or stupid people, we just, or clever people, whatever, it doesn't matter. It just matters that we change when we know and we are aware of what we can do different. And I like also her idea of the science club in every school. So I also take the opportunity to state that SBPC has the applications open for SBPC via iSchool, and its deadline is December 13, and 10,000 reais for each project, and it's to be conducted next year in schools in general. And so it's also a good opportunity to start new projects, and it goes slowly, but things are also changing. We have some initiatives today that we didn't have a few years ago, even before the pandemics, the change in plastic bags in the supermarket and all that. So all the spread in using the fabric, not the, well, not, I don't know, pano, I mean, the fabric bags, the eco bags, and people see other people doing that, and then they change. It's good contamination. So let's hope it's gonna just, but it's gotta be speeded up. We can't just relax and say, oh yeah, they're changing, so fine. No, it's not fine. And we have to reduce everything that is bad and increase everything that is good. I don't know, that's what I can say.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. The thing, if you know how to deal with it more fast, we're not probably so close to this tip point. That's the thing. So, but I agree that we are conscious people. Every time we learn a little bit more, we have always to at least we in the academy that we are producing science, but we are also teachers. We are teaching people that are going to spread the word. And so we have always to stop a little bit and think, how can we do better, or how can we do different? So this is what Helena said about the goals of sustainability. We made this as a policy of our post-graduation or graduation course, that every student has to think about it and try to include or to match his own project, its own her or his own project in one of the goals. And then they realize that, well, we are contributing. Yeah, we have something to do like that. Or if I don't have that much, I'll try to change a little bit, and maybe I can contribute with that. So this is something. So I believe that we have to induce things the whole time. We have to force a little bit, and something that started with the agencies that finance research, they started to ask us for science communication, but I think they don't ask that, something that they should have to, because we have short of money and everything, but they should have to ask for a specific lab or an NGO or people in the group that are going to develop us, because we just say that we're going to do, but we are not bringing actors to do that. So they should to be more, maybe to make things faster, because we are talking about our point of view, that we start things with science. Maybe we should start things with other, or people that starts, or NGOs that starts in another way, have other kinds of thinking. But my thinking is that we should be obliged to have a science project together with a team of communication that is trained for that, of journalists or other kind of the social sciences to understand that. And maybe we should have a team in policy. So we have always to contact vereador, I don't know how to say this in English, or a congressman or someone to come with us And we should always have in this project a manager of, because we are in biodiversity, we are in biological sciences, but in other sciences, other kind of man or industry together or something, that we can apply those things more thoroughly. And this will be some way to force us to take together. And this was more or less what the Petrobras projects were, social and environmental projects of Petrobras were doing. So you had to have all these approaches in the project with people designed to do those. And this is something that we are trying to do. So this Biogeomar that I told you about, we have a journalist, we have someone that's specialized in social media, and these people have they are being paid for that. So they are really part of the project, not that someone that does that for voluntary or something like that. So I think we have to start to make that, to try to put people in the project. And well, this is, I was not so fast as Andrea would like. So next question.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem. No problem. I think that we can move to the three questions, even that we
Okay.
pass a few minutes. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like also to highlight the initiatives of alliances between scientists that are increasing now. We have here in Brazil Coalizão, Ciência e Sociedade, which is informing the governments. Also in the Limnological Society, we also have a working group to write technical notes to governments and so on. And this culture, moving from technological machinery as a solution for everything to nature-based solutions, now it's becoming very popular and very nicely done during the last years. So I would like to move to the question so we can fulfill this obligation. We have two questions from Danielle Lins. One very specific question to Helena. If you, Professor Helena, do you think that, a difficult question, do you think that you have native species that can clean all water in all continents, if each continent have a native species able to clean water? And also he asked a little bit on the globalization. What do you think about the globalization? I think everyone's in favor of preserving cultures and ancient ways of living. Would it be possible to continue globalizing the world and still conserve its tradition and its biodiversity? Will the globalization of the biodiversity accompany economic globalization, which is unequal, or will be socialized and homogeneous in the long run? Should we connect to the matrix, take the blue pill? Living virtually would be the solution. COVID may be contributed a lot to accelerate the virtual life, so predicted by cinematographic science fiction. So in general, what do you think about globalization? And Helena, on this specific question, on the potential of native species in all continents to clean water.
Yes, you try to answer the native species. Okay, I don't know if the questions about the fish or plant or native species in general. Yeah, I work also with fish, so I work with native fish, and I know that we have some ecotoxicity test that is in the legislation that is with no native species, yeah, then is standardized. So I think it's my opinion that all depend of your goal, because if you want to test water quality, then we can use this ecotoxicity tests that are standardized. But if you want to your goal is to study the water quality for a regional river, for example, then I prefer to use native species, because the native species is there. They are in contact with this water, So for me, is important to use native species in my study. Then you are asking also maybe for the plant, for the cleaned water, then I think that depends if you have these species in other countries. We use this plant in Germany, and it's the same as in Brazil, and works very well. So I think if you have a native species in other country, you can also use for clean water this plant. So I have the experience in Germany and Brazil, and then work very well. So I think, I don't know if you are going to have one species for all the world. That's, I don't know. But some are the same in other countries. So we can use that. So I don't know if there is.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question to answer, but indeed you give some important thoughts. And to all of you, what about the relationship between globalization, coping with globalization, and keeping the local traditions, local biodiversity, and functioning? Rosana, you want to start with that? Or Carolina? Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina, go ahead.
I just say that it's a challenge. We have plenty of challenges because we are so many that's impossible, human beings, that it's impossible. And along with the technological development, that it was a natural outcome, the globalization, the internet and all that. And then the pandemic came and made it even more evident. There are good sides and bad sides, as always, of everything. So, and we must respect and consider, and if we reduce inequality and really respect people and diversity in all senses, so we can conciliate globalization with respect and preservation of like native cultural properties or resources or traditions of people. It's very important if you consider preserving biodiversity also of human sociological, cultural aspects. Just that.
Yeah, I think, I know Daniel is worried about invasive species, and I think we have to think of globalization in two very different ways. It's very nice to have globalization create markets. It's a reality. So if you think about acai, which it became a big deal, not only in Brazil, but I go to the States and I see that people have these juices of acai and think that's great and everything, or cupuaçu, and the Japan wanted to take our cupuaçu. That's very good because it creates markets for the products. It helps to beat an inequality or to give a way of life for people in the forest. But you don't want to have acai planted all over the world. That's the idea. We don't want homogenization. You don't have to plant it. You have to buy it, and we don't have to plant something else, and we have to buy it from the other countries. So we have the specificities in each country or in each side, but we can share with everybody. It's kind of sad when you go. When I went to northeastern beaches, to Bahia or something like that, I would love to go to the beach and eat queijo coalho, something that's in Brazil. I don't know how to translate that, kind of cheese. And it was something from there. I'd love to go to the northeastern to eat there. Now I can do it at my home because queijo coalho you can take it in the supermarket. So it's very nice to have it all the time. At the other side, it's kind of sad that it's not really special anymore. When you go there, you eat there, you like it anyways, but it's not so special because it's not something from that place. So we have to think about how much we want to globalize, but it's actually something that humans do. It's something that's quite unavoidable. And another experience that I had, I was fortunate enough to know Galapagos. I went to Galapagos, and when I reached there, so I see in the airport lots of preoccupation of invasive species. They go through all your luggage, and they go through your shoes. Everything is nice, but when we get to the island, the main island, when you have the city, what you see in their gardens, all plants that I see in gardens in Brazil, hibiscus, bougainvillea, primavera, all these plants that were very used to see. And I went all around, how these plants are here? Well, in the beginning, people were not so warned about the invasion, and the dogs and the cats, and people want pets, and they bring things with them, because this is a cultural thing. You bring the plant, and we do that. You go to the airport in Netherlands, and there are lots and lots of bulbs of tulips for you to bring home, because you saw those tulips there, you want to have them in your garden. So you have to pay attention how much we're doing that. But it's something that is human. So it's not easy. It's not easy. With globalization, we are going to have lots and lots of invasions, and this is what we see, because people want to bring their environment, the things that they like, to have them all the time. But we saw in the COP26 all those different tribes of Indians from Brazil. How is nice of them being lawyers and or researchers or ecologists, and they don't completely lose their culture, and they want to go back to their tribes and talk to people there. So I think it's possible to have this kind of preserving things, local things, and also being global at the same time.
Yeah, we need to globalize the culture of preserving the specificities. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect synthesis.
Okay. So we have one more question from Jefferson. How to demystify the idea that preserving the ocean environment can't go along with economic growth? How do you think we can do this? So anyone wants to start? Even Camila, if you want to contribute, Camila, sorry.
But I think it's the same problem, not only the ocean, anything, any economic activity will have some impact. This is for sure. We cannot use, as I said, most of the economic activities actually use biodiversity as one of the sources of the products. So we are going to impact. So we have to minimize impact. That's the idea. The whole idea is to minimize, always, to reduce the use, to reduce how we use, and use smartly. I have to pin that. Carol showed us was this map of plastic use, or the industries that uses more, and Coca-Cola is in the beginning. And actually, you have to say that Coca-Cola is not something that we need. No one lives on Coca-Cola. No one needs Coca-Cola for anything. So you'd like to have this beverage sometime, once a month, once a week, that's good. But now I see people around me that they don't live because they don't know how to drink water. They just don't know how to drink Coca-Cola. So this is kind of sad. This is kind of sad. So that's we have to do. We have to really think of what we're producing, what is the economic growth in the ocean of any other site. I think we have to accept some. I told about the hardening of the coast. We are building things on the coast. If you want to have boats, leisure, recreation, and we need a marina. So we know that it has an impact, but it's a floating thing. It's a less impact that it's in columns. Or if you make the surfaces more with more texture, you bring also predators, not only the prey. So you make the environment more equilibrated, so you maintain fish around and things like those. So you have to think of ways to minimize the impact. That's the idea.
I'd like also to complement that. I think that we need to reduce. I agree. And in toxicology, we also talk a lot with prevent. So we need also sometimes to prevent some contamination. So one example is about the accidents, about the mining industry or the mining company accidents that occur in the last years in Brazil. So what is being done to prevent the next one? So I think it's very important, because then we have the accident or also an oil spill, and they said, okay, now we need to treat, we need to, that's great actions, a lot of money, but so the ecosystem is very difficult to return as was before. It's very difficult because the danger, the impact was very great. And then we are have this, seeing this after this mining accident, that is very difficult to return or to restoration of the environment. So I think that's one thing that's very important, that in Brazil, there is no many actions to prevent before we have the damage. So I think that is very important to think about it.
Much cheaper.
Yeah.
To prevent.
Oh,
yeah.
And even in terms of human lives. Huh? No, just to add on everything that was said before, I guess the key word is sustainability. If we must just educate and convince companies that non-sustainable practices in the end will reduce their profits. So this is a way also to achieve these goals there. Sometimes, so the core issue is education in all senses. And there are some compensation policies and all that, so that, like Rosana said, every action has some impact. So this brings about also the need for policies and public policies and all that. And perhaps a very useful term or approach or metric is that of ecological footprint, and bring this known for everybody. So, and also about the Coca-Cola, I guess it's also a matter of education. If people just stop buying and then say that's bad for the teeth, bad for your health anyway, okay, once in a while, but that's just reduce, like red meat also, just reduce, not going to vanish and no barbecues anymore, or just no veggie meat. Of course not, it's not going to work, but you can really reduce and contaminate people with the idea that's better for them and for the one health issue to reduce meat and Coca-Cola and all that.
Great, yeah.
I want to complement just one thing that Jefferson, no? He was talking about the ocean, and maybe one of the things that people think is fisheries, and maybe to diversify the focus or the target of the fisheries, because if you just go for one species, you are going to overexploit the species. So there are ways, a part of reducing or minimizing impact. So there are ways to do things in the better ways. Just I remember this example of fishing.
Camila, do you want to contribute? Yeah.
I just want to add some information on this discussion is we should understand what we are gaining or losing as a society with any development activity. When they propose something new for economic growth, we need to understand the scenario that we have at the moment that we are seeing this new proposal and understand how they can accumulate impacts in the same habitat, in the same environment. And I think we need to stimulate the use of technology and innovation, because they are really important to reduce these impacts and to mitigate impacts and increase gains to the present and to the next generation. This is something that we need to keep in mind. We cannot think just for what the problem for this generation, but for the next generation, for us and for all the biodiversity. And as Helena said, it's always better prevent than figure out the problem after we add something new at the environment. And we need to remember that the environment can suffer with a lot of cascading effects. And this kind of effects, we cannot control them. Sometimes we cannot predict them. We have some good models today and good statistic models to predict what can happen in the environment if we add something new, but we cannot predict all, because we have cascading effects. We have side effects that is uncontrollable. And we need to remember that, because we can lose a lot of ecosystem service when we have cascading effects. And we can lose something that we are not putting in our minds when we just put in the balance, oh, we will get that and we will lose that. But cascading effects show us that we can lose much more, and we are not seen at the moment. And I think this is something important when we put all in the balance, when we are discussion about a new project for some specific area or some specific planet.
Great talk. Yeah, I think that we are now past due. So let's end here. As scientists and as citizens, we have a lot to do in changing cultures, in providing information for everyone. So as Ramon said in the music, hey ho, let's go. Thank you very much to all of you. It was a real pleasure to have 4 brilliant women with me today, and I hope we can move forward in the discussion. And see you. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
so
for
much.
everybody.
Ciao.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you all, girls.
Great.
This is
Ciao.
the
Thank you.
girls' power. in
Girls' power,
science.
yeah.
Thank you, Andrea, to be the man in this group.
Honor. Yeah, it was an honor. Yeah, thank you very much.
Obrigada.